I see this all the time now on social media. Housing prices are skyrocketing, homes are unaffordable, incomes aren't catching up. And I've just got to make this video at this point because there is a reason for all of this that no one is realizing is happening right in front of our faces. And I'm going to answer this very question. What exactly has driven up the cost of homes if the average income growth is not even close to matching the rise of housing prices? Because something is missing here, and I'm going to give it to you. The Bullock top story is real estate today, so let's do it.
So why isn't it getting national attention as well?
If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed.
No one is talking about this.
In a normal, healthy market, as incomes rise, home values rise. It makes sense. People make more, which expands their purchasing power. But if home prices are outpacing people's incomes, then there's an X factor out there we haven't yet exposed. So who exactly is behind the scenes and driving up the real estate market then? Introducing you to the international buyer. And here's why. Let's first just take a look at the top 10 most expensive real estate in the country according to Rocket Mortgage as of February of 2023. Rocket Mortgage originated over 464,000 mortgages in 2022 alone, so they do have the best data on this. We have New York City at number 1, most expensive, Los Angeles at number 2, then San Francisco, no surprises here so far, Honolulu over in Hawaii, Washington, D.C., we then have Boston, San Diego and San Jose, both in California, Seattle, Washington, and lastly, down here in Miami, Florida. Entirely different markets, but so much overlapping of similarities here. First, just look at these locations to start. If you're an international buyer, these are the obvious choices as these cities are all along the coastlines and most convenient for you to travel in and out of. Probably why Wichita, Kansas and St. Louis, Missouri are not on the list. Now let's break down the income to housing price for a few of these cities to show the impact of foreign buyers competing against the average US citizen. Starting with New York, population just shy of 8.5 million, the average medium income is about $67,000 a year, with the average price of a home being $850,000. Now thinking out loud here and thinking of cost of living in these major cities, there is not anyone that's making $67,000 a year and saving enough money to put down 20%, which is a whopping $170,000 for a down payment. The numbers do not add up at all. This is the case with every US city on this list. So what is really driving up the cost of housing then? Well, as international buyers are twice as likely to purchase with only cash, we're not taking into account their income, only the purchase price, which is really what is leaving these medium incomes to tread way below the rising housing prices. So stats, or lack thereof stats, I should say, actually are the biggest stat we should be analyzing here. Now you look at where I am in Miami here at number 10 on the list. I mean, come on. People making $45,000 a year and buying $500,000 homes? Someone with that income, aka a server at a restaurant, is not buying that property. They do not have $100,000 in cash to put down on a $500,000 listing. So then you have to ask yourself, well, who is buying that home? Because that medium home is not being bought by the American citizen medium home buyer. It's just not. Now for some reasons why. There are absolutely no restrictions on the purchase of US real estate from non-US citizens, and in fact, foreign buyers can even qualify for US mortgages, believe it or not. there are virtually no limitations on their purchase power. A lot of countries actually operate similarly as long as there is accepted currency, such as the lack of restrictions in buying property as a foreigner in Brazil, Italy, Mexico, Japan, and many others. However, larger populated countries like China and India do have some restrictions. For example, in China, you need to have studied or worked in China for at least a year on a resident permit, and in India, a non-citizen can only purchase a residential home and not any agricultural land, plantations, or farmhouses. So in the US, we have no restrictions on foreign buyers, and we're also a country that has some of the most sought after real estate in the world. You see a boom with this, especially after COVID, as international flights have ramped back up to normal rates. According to the Business Journal's research looking at foreign home buying analytics from April 2021 to March of 2022, so just in 1 year, purchases made from China totaled to $6.1 billion of US home sales. Canadians bought $5.5 billion worth. India with $3.6 billion, Mexico with $2.9 billion, and Brazil purchased $1.6 billion worth of US real estate. So let's take John and Stacy for example, a young American couple living in virtually any American city on this top 10 list. John and Stacy are obviously competing to buy a home along with other locals from their city, other couples, maybe some retirees, and maybe some people moving from out of state as well looking to relocate there. Seems pretty competitive enough already, right? But wait, now let's add in China, South Korea, India, Brazil, Mexico, Canada, Italy, Spain, buyers from all of these countries, and we might as well add in all of Europe at this point. And you've got China and probably a lot of Japanese buyers as well. So let's just add in all of Asia. And while we're at it, let's just throw in all of South America at this point because it's so close to the US, especially the southern US. And might as well, at this point, you have Asia and South America and Europe, just throw in the whole world at it too. So instead of competing with maybe around a couple hundred, maybe a few thousand serious buyers across the US at best for that particular city, and of course, not every single person in these countries is looking to buy in the United States, but at this point, I think you can see the point. At the end of the day, there is only so much actual soil and real estate to purchase in one given area. We start turning an already very competitive market into a hyper-competitive market. If anything, there's a ceiling on the supply, but with demand, when you add the whole world into the equation, the demand is endless. It's virtually limitless if you think about how many home buyers exist in the entire world and compare it to the amount of actual homes for sale in the US. Now, John and Stacy, what are they gonna do? They're going to branch out and start considering less expensive properties, probably in the suburbs, which then raises prices in the suburbs. And the people in the suburbs start considering the less expensive areas in the rural areas. Thus, where the chain reaction truly begins, as the suburbs get bombarded with city people, and the rural areas get bombarded by the suburban buyers looking for a deal, all because the urban buyers were bombarded with the international buyer. A complete chain reaction, domino style. Now, why do foreign investors like buying US real estate in the first place? What is driving their demand? Well, we are extremely renter friendly, along with a population that has a serious high demand for property rentals. On top of that, buying a property virtually anywhere along the coastlines of the US, you can turn that rental property into a cash cow, Airbnb if you'd like as well. Hence the top 10 cities in the United States from the list I showed you earlier. So it's great investments, and in places like China especially, investing your money in being fiscally responsible is part of their culture. So why wouldn't they be taking advantage of these opportunities in the United States? Now, the nail in the coffin for US buyers, the average US buyer, is when interest rates go up, pushing John and Sally out of the market to purchase a home. See, a foreign buyer paying with all cash is completely unaffected, almost immune and invincible by this huge factor that highly discourages the average US home buyer to buy a home, advantaging the international buyer greatly who has all cash. Thus, when interest rates eventually do return to normal, those same home prices have been absolutely skyrocketed by then, leaving John and Sally with losing out on a crucial period of equity growth in their home if they weren't discouraged by the high interest rates in the first place. Now, a lot of these foreign home buyers are investors. These are top of the line people from each country. These are some of the most fiscally responsible people in the world. What is so fascinating of the international buyer is how discreetly successful they are. These aren't the people you see throwing money around in the club or spending their money lavishly to show off to other people how much money they have. They are climbing the economic ladder very quietly and also very quickly. So to summarize, the average American is not only competing with each other for homes, but also on the international level as well. Which means when you go to buy a home in the US, you are basically purchasing international real estate. More buyers means more demand, which means more bidding wars, and the average American citizen is typically losing out right now in this scenario. Now, if you completely disagree with my thoughts and research here, let me know in the comments and I'll give you my thoughts and we can chat there. Or if you found this to be a little bit eye-opening, insightful, and offers a different perspective to real estate in the United States, let me know your thoughts as well. Subscribe and check out the podcast where I chat with people from all across the world where we delve into today's problems and issues. And I will see you then.